Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
And Croeso I Abertawe, welcome to Swansea, or as I have been saying these last few weeks, welcome to Basingstoke, as I am in Basingstoke. And if any of you have seen me tweeting out my pictures of where I am, I'm currently sat in a pile of furniture as I'm on the move. It has been the last day of term. And so I am in Basingstoke and I am moving to Swansea, my new home, my new teaching job. So let me know where you are at the moment, where you're listening from. You could be on holiday. You could have finished term already. You could have been lucky enough to be going away or be going, oh, I've got Krishna in Muscat. Oh, Krishna, hi, welcome. We'll be coming on for a chat in a little bit, but there are lots of us around the world listening in. Maybe you're still in term time, maybe you finished. We'll be finding out, and we'll be talking to our guests tonight about what this year's been like, but also what end of term is like from different perspectives. As I say, I'm moving on this year. I'm leaving my current school, and so today, on the last day of term, and it has been a hot day as well, we have had I guess you could call it a leaving assembly, where we have had the head teachers also leaving and some other members of staff. So we've had all of the children out, because we haven't been able to have parents there to see our year sixes being sent off as a primary school, onto secondary school. We've live streamed it, but we have been on the playground in the heat we are having in the UK this week. And so I am baked from that. I am emotionally, I guess, drained and baked from oh, and Vix is here as well. Vicky, she's saying she's in Runcorn. So we've got people all over the world listening in, and we'll be talking about where they're from. So remember, if you are in the studio listening, let us know where you're listening from. Join the conversation, because of course you can text in, but also you can call in if you have questions for me, or if you have questions for either of our guests about, I guess, sometimes we get locked in. I certainly tend to think of things from a primary point of view as a primary deputy head at the moment. I get funneled in. So it's really good to, I guess, expand our understanding, because there are teachers in lots of different situations. So, as I say, a hot day, the start of the holidays for me tomorrow. I apologise if I get a little end of termy. It is also hot here, and I live by a train track, so the windows are all shut. So that we don't get any interference from that. So if you hear me slowly withering in the heat, it is a little like a sauna, I guess, where we're at. Now, what we're going to do first of all is we're going to pop to an advert break. Krishna, if you're there and you can click the call-in button, as the advert is playing, I will welcome you into the studio, and we'll have a little chat. So I will see you on the other side of this ad break.
Creative Resources, made for teachers by teachers. At Creative Resources, we've been rethinking what a classroom can be. We've created a huge range of more than 2,500 original and exciting resources that span across more than 15 different subject areas. Whether you're looking for primary or secondary level resources, careers options, PSHE, arts, or humanities, Creative Resources have the resources for you. We offer full curriculum packages and unique, challenging escape rooms themed on topics such as Shakespeare, Tudors, and fractions. We have quizzes, task cards, Tarsier puzzles, and lots more. Better still, more than 100 resources can be accessed for free. Just visit our website, www.CRE8TIVEresources.com. You can get 10% off any order you make on our website by using the discount code TT Radio. Creative Resources, made for teachers by teachers. Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful, and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TTRadio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club. Introducing the Leadership Masterclass series by Diana Osagi. Learn how to ditch your fears and develop your leadership confidence. How to deal with difficult colleagues. How to thrive when you lead in a challenging environment. And how to get colleagues to buy into your vision. Join Diana for her online leadership masterclasses starting on the 10th of July and running all the way through the summer. These sessions are the perfect way to prepare and refresh for the next academic year and beyond. Book your place at courageousleadership.co.uk/events now. The first 50 leaders to sign up get an additional free mini coaching session with Diana herself. Don't miss this. Courageous Leadership Masterclasses at courageousleadership.co.uk/events.
And Croeso Abatawi. Now, Krishna, I have just unmuted you. You should be able to talk now. Can you say hi? Oh, Krishna, let me just try that again. Okay. Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yep, and we can hear you loud and clear as well. Now, welcome to the show. First time on Teachers Talk Radio, I believe, yeah?
Absolutely, yes.
That's brilliant stuff. And you are calling from quite a way away. You're calling from Oman, yeah?
Yes, I'm calling from Oman.
And so I guess let's just kind of put, in case there's anyone without the geographical knowledge, that's sort of close to Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, just around the corner, the next door neighbour. Would that be safe to say? Let me just see. Something going on there, Krishna. I'm just going to see if I can. Oh, unmute. Can you hear us now? Okay, Krishna, I think we're struggling a little bit there with your connection. I'm just going to try. Sounds like you might be having some Wi-Fi or signal problems. What we'll do is we will carry on just trying there. What I'm going to do, Krishna, is I'm going to eject you from the call, and then if you try connecting again in a little bit, what we'll do is we will carry on our conversation there. So I'm just going to disconnect you there, Krishna, over in Oman. Now, obviously, it's going to be really exciting when we do hopefully get to talk to Krishna, because obviously hearing that perspective from people training in different parts of the world and how it's been, and possibly different cultural approaches to the end of term, will be really exciting to hear. Now, what we've got as well, obviously, tonight is we've got Vix, who's I guess, a teacher looking for a home. And so Vix will be talking to us. And I know Vix was, Krishna is calling back in. Let's just try. There we go. See if we can get her back on the line with us. And it says that she is coming in. She's a speaker, and I think I can hear her there. Krishna? Can you hear me, Krishna?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, I think we're back on a good connection with you. So we were just talking about where Oman is, and I was saying it's kind of near Dubai, that part of the world, yeah?
Exactly. We are just a 4-hour drive away from Dubai.
Okay, and so I guess there's some things we kind of want to set the scene as we go through about how teaching might be different there, or expectations might be different. My first question, I have been complaining all day, I guess, about it being too hot, really hot, crazy hot here. I guess you deal with that day in, day out heat in that part of the world, are you?
The heat here is, it's nothing compared to what it would be like in the UK. So we are looking at an average of about 45 degrees every day.
Okay, wow. Okay, but I guess you guys are set up with some aircon and things like that as part of your classrooms and
Definitely.
things?
Yeah, aircon is what keeps us going for at least 6 months in the year.
Okay, because yeah, I have been complaining. I know it's probably the actual heat outside is nowhere near as bad, but I've been complaining that I've been stuck in a room with some year sixes and only one fan, and certainly that has not been a nice experience at times this week. Okay, Krishna, well, why don't we get started by if you tell us a little bit about yourself to set the scene before I start asking you some questions about sort of your training and your experiences and your end of the year. Okay, so tell us about yourself. Okay, Krishna, I think we've lost you again now. I'm struggling to hear you. Oh, no. Hello. Yeah, I think I can just hear you coming back.
Yes. So I was born and raised here in Oman. I'm teaching university students at university level. Working at a British school. And I've quite recently gained my QTS.
Okay, Krishna, I think what's happening there is we're dropping in and out, okay, and struggling to hear you a little bit. It kind of clicks in and out as we hear you, and I think that's probably some kind of signal problem. So if you try one more time, just to kind of give us a little talk through. Okay, Krishna, I think what we'll do is if we pop that on hold for now, we'll see if we can get you back in a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is it seemed to be better, Krishna, when we ejected you and you came back in. So we'll give it a little bit of a try. Hopefully we can get to speak to you because it is really an interesting kind of point of view to hear from. So what we'll do is we'll just drop out of there for a second. I'm afraid, obviously, the heat in my disconnected office at the moment is probably causing all kinds of problems with our Wi-Fi. What we will do is we will continue having our chat about different points of view. I'm hoping Vix is around, Vicky, so that we can have a chat with her. Hopefully we can get a nice clear chat going on there. Don't forget, if you're listening as well, you can call in and join the conversation. And of course, you can drop those text messages into us as well. So, Vix, are you there still? I know I saw you in earlier. Oh, Vix is there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if we can't talk to Vix for a little bit. So, Vix, you should have got an invite there. And hopefully, I'll be able to hear you talking as you come on. So you've appeared there as a little cat, actually, on my logo there, Vix. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You're coming through nice and clear there. All right. So,
fabulous.
How's it going? So you're in Runcorn. Where is Runcorn in the world in the UK? My geography is terrible for place names.
It's Cheshire, so it's about 15 miles south of Liverpool.
Okay.
The other side of the Mersey, but
okay.
South rather than west.
See, and I guess that is the horrible kind of southern-centric upbringing that I've had, where I kind of just went, okay, somewhere in the north. So I apologise completely to all our listeners about my geographical sort of understanding of the world. But yeah, I guess you know, anything north of East Anglia, and I start to get confused. So it's going to be really good to talk to you about kind of the point of view that you will have for us as a sort of supply teacher, as a person looking for a permanent home this year, particularly as you've gone through COVID and what that's been like. As we've gone through the COVID period and what that's been like. And also, I guess, particularly it'd be really interesting to talk about the end of year, I guess, traditions and things that are going on and how that feels as a supply teacher. Is that okay?
Yeah, sound.
Yeah, lovely. So
yeah.
The first thing I wanted to say is I've kind of been biting my tongue a bit. Where, as I say, do you call yourself a supply teacher? Is that what you? Like, how do you self kind of describe it?
Unfortunately, that is my job at the moment. I have been on supply since I qualified in 2016. Not because I haven't been applying for things, but I haven't found my fit yet. I've had long-term assignments every year to date, including this year. So my NQT's done, dusted. Just looking for that permanent place to set some roots and build a department and do fabulous drama.
Yeah, and I guess and you're a secondary drama teacher, right? So that's your
Yes.
your training, and so that's the role you're looking for. And that again, I guess for me is another thing that I maybe my perspective is warped, and why I find it, because obviously as a primary school trained person, as a primary school, I see a lot of jobs out there, if that makes sense, because all primary teachers are kind of the same, aren't we? We're not specialists in that sense. We're all the same. But so is the market out there for drama jobs? Is it competitive? Is there just not jobs out there? Is it?
It's extremely competitive, and when you consider that most secondary schools either don't have a drama department or only have one teacher in the department, they're quite scarce, really. There's a lot of competition. I'm awkward in the fact that I'm not fresh out of university, NQT level, RQT level. I've been away and done other things and come back to teaching as a more mature person, for want of a better phrase. I'm 40 next year, which isn't old, but
well, I'm 40.
Late.
Yeah, I'm 40. Let's not say 40's old. I turned 40 this
it's
year.
Not.
But, all of those young'uns out there know 40 is still young. We're
Absolutely.
okay. You and me, Vix, we're all right.
Yes.
So
it does make me a little bit awkward for job perspective.
Yeah, I guess so. Do you think that is people looking for like young teachers? Are they kind of like, oh, I need an a young person coming in, or is it, do they not maybe see the experience value? Do you think?
I think that might be part of it. My career prior to teaching has been very varied. There is some acting in there. There is lots of bar jobs and bits and pieces. Up until my last job before training to teach. So I suppose on paper I might look a little flighty. I'm not.
Yeah. No, I guess so. Do you know what I say though? Like, I started out in bars. In fact, I was in bars and clubs and all of that stuff, doing that kind of stuff. And I keep saying that one of the things about dealing with parents, if you've been in the service industry, I will recommend it to people. If you have done customer facing work, it certainly helped me, I think, with talking to people, talking to parents as customers, I guess, more than just as I think that actually adds a different dimension.
Yes, I do find parents' evenings quite easy when I've had them. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit, I guess, about how you got into teaching then. You said you did some acting. Was that kind of before you were looking to go an acting route, or was it always be a teacher or a love of amateur dramatics, or how did you get into it?
My teachers said when I was 6 that I should be a teacher, and I rebelled when I got to 18. I went and did my drama degree and got to 21 and was still determined I wasn't going to teach. It wasn't where I was going to be. I spent a couple of years trying to get jobs and found it really difficult, and then applied to go to Aberdeen when I was 24. Unfortunately, I lost 2 people within the space of 4 months in my family, and so I didn't pass it. I did have 2 attempts, but I didn't pass it. So I came away. I got involved with a theatre and education company and did some acting, did some touring. I had my own theatre company for a very short period of time, and then couldn't afford to live in Aberdeen any longer, so moved back down this way because my family are from Liverpool, Runcorn, that sort of area, and was working in Asda in the pharmacy. I was getting really bored. I thought, I loved what I was doing when I was trying the teaching the first time, and so felt that I had to try again. So it took a very long time. I had 15 universities reject me over 3 years. Eventually got onto a course and qualified 2016.
So kind of like, you know, a quite dedicated journey then. You must have been fairly sure that teaching was what you wanted to do, you know.
Yes. I mean, for all I didn't pass it when I did it the first time, I enjoyed the interactions. I enjoyed trying to get knowledge across and seeing what was coming back and playing with the ideas and building on it. It was just unfortunate timing for me.
We've got a couple of comments coming in. Stetter7, who I believe said they were from the USA a minute ago. So we've got a caller from the USA. He's just saying, if I was hiring, I'd hire a mix of mature to younger and also in the middle. And Lucy there as well. I'm sure Lucy did say where she was from slightly earlier, from Lisbon in Portugal. So it's agreed a healthy mix is what makes a school tick. So we've got some people there who maybe are kind of, I guess, saying that there is hope out there for us.
Oh, yes.
Still youngers, are still young ones.
Yes.
You know, we still have some mileage in us.
Absolutely.
So I guess that, you know, the reason I was really interested in your perspective on this is, you know, I personally, I did a couple of years supply, you know, a few years ago now. I did, you know, I was on supply, moving between schools, difference between, you know, days here and longer sort of periods there. And I thought it'd be really interesting to ask you about how it's been through this period for you. Now, you've obviously been doing supply before the COVID thing existed, and you've been doing supply during the COVID thing. What have the changes been?
It's more the restrictions and rules and regulations that have changed. The actual going in, taking over the lesson, covering the lesson, getting the material across hasn't really changed. It's everything you got to do when you get there. Like you make sure you got your mask, you sanitize. It's the process that's maybe changed this year, I think, more than anything else.
Oh, and we've got Krishna who's going to try and join us, Vix. I've got Krishna as well. So I'm going to see if I can have you both on at the same time. I've not actually done this before. So we'll see if Krishna can join us and we can talk to her as well. So Krishna, you should be possibly coming through now. We've got an invite going to you. And it says, can you hear us?
Hello.
Oh, Krishna, loud and clear. Welcome back. How's it going? Yeah.
Thank you. Finally. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, really clear this time actually. So really good to hear from you. Now, Krishna, you heard a little bit of Vix and sort of explaining where she's, you know, where she's been in her journey and how she got into teaching. And I saw you say in the comments as well that 40 is the new 20. Am I assuming that you are not? Oh, I don't know how to word this politely. I guess.
Trying to say I'm. I get what you're saying. And I'm not 40 yet.
Okay,
and
but
I'm not 20. I'm somewhere in the middle. Somewhere
in the middle. Yeah, that's as far as I will go. So can you tell us, Krishna, how did you then come to find yourself, because you're a newly qualified teacher, you know, somewhere in the middle there? How have you found your route into teaching yourself then?
Right. So mine is quite similar to what Vic said, but it's also a bit funny because I've been teaching for 9 years, but I qualified as a teacher just a couple of months ago. And that is because I used to be a university teacher.
Okay. And I'm not necessarily...
So basically...
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Basically, I ventured into primary school teaching just 2 years ago when I started off as a teaching assistant there. But previously, prior to that, I was teaching at a university because my background, funny enough, is in business and management. So I did an MBA in marketing, and I started working in the corporate field. I was a marketing coordinator. But then I realized that I only really did that because my family wanted me to. So then I gave all that up, went back to uni, trained to be a teacher. I did my CELTA, started teaching English and economics at a university. and then had a lovely 5 years. I thoroughly enjoyed it because that's where my heart was into teaching. And then the whole native speaker thing hit the English market, and then I found myself jobless. So when that happened, I ventured into primary school teaching as a teaching assistant. But then, like they say, all good things happen, and I've loved it. It's been great.
Was there a specific reason why you chose primary as opposed to sort of going secondary? Because that's quite a big swing, right, from university down to primary.
I know it is. And initially it was quite a shock because everything really had to be dumbed down. The tables were shorter, the kids were tinier. I found myself kneeling on the floor to speak to them. So it was really crazy initially. But it wasn't really a choice. It was more about, in this country, if you want to stay with your family, if you want to stay, you have to be employed by a sponsor. And that's the first job that came up. And I'm glad that it's the first job that came up, because I've loved it. So it was just by chance, by accident, or should I say it found me.
Okay.
Fate.
Yeah, fate. Krishna, can I ask, and then I'm going to ask Vix the same thing, and then I'll answer as well. But so Krishna, you've done university, you're now looking at primary. Would you do secondary? Are you a teacher of every age, or do you kind of want to specialise?
And I'm really enjoying primary, so I'd probably give primary a couple of years and really get my head around it. But what I really miss about university teaching is the level of intellectual conversations you can have with the kids. It's a completely different set of skills that you need. So probably a couple of years here, and then maybe see what it's like in secondary. I'm open to it. It's just, well, the age can be a bit tricky with all of the hormones raging and the attitudes and everything. Okay,
so I'm going to put the same question then to Vix. Vicky, you're secondary currently targeted at the moment, drama targeted. Would you do primary? Do you do primary on supply? Do you take those jobs, or do you sort of see yourself as the age range of secondary?
I have done a few days in primary. I have to say, I think it would probably take me an awful lot of adapting. I absolutely love working with teenagers. I love the creativity. I like the banter. I even like the poor behaviour sometimes, because I can use it and bring them round. I just find it easier. I suppose if I put my mind to it, I could do primary. I've got primary school kids in my family, and I get on really well with them. So I imagine next step would be a gang of them.
Yeah.
As opposed to one or two.
I do find it really interesting, and listeners, if you want to text in or maybe call in to give us your opinions, because I was primary trained, and then I did a lot of teaching secondary on supply at the start of my career, and then I moved to primary, and now I'm going back next year to secondary again. So I flip between, and I've never really seen myself as a primary or a secondary age specialist. I know obviously when it comes to subjects, I think you do have to specialise. But yeah, I've never really done that. All right, Krishna, I'm going to ask this next question for you. I'm just conscious there seems to be a little bit of a lag, so I'm going to ask the whole question, then pause and give it to you. So how has this year been for you and the students you teach in Oman? Can you sort of describe it for us? What's the year been like?
Right, so we've been under lockdown for a major part of last year and this year. So it was quite something, because our physical interaction with the kids have been an absolute minimum. We've just been seeing them online for most of the year, but it's also been great in a certain way, because we've seen them grow so much, and their resilience has really shown, and it's really come out. And I'm completely awestruck and proud of everything that they've done, especially seeing little ones, the year 3 ones and the year 4 ones, do all of that work and turn their cameras on and interact and share. It's been amazing. It's been tough, but it's also been amazing.
Okay. You know, I do think that's a really interesting point. We are global. You know, Teachers Talk Radio is a global station as well, and we do a lot of things on Twitter as professionals now. And I think through this pandemic, maybe us communicating with each other as different things happen. You know, we've had in the UK, well, in England, should I say, in Wales, it is not the same where I'm moving to. We've had our Freedom Day where, you know, lockdown has ended, you know, regulations, all of these things have stopped. And we maybe forget that other teachers in our networks maybe are different. Now, Vix, I wanted to ask you specifically then, as someone who's travelled between schools, have you seen, you know, those things that you talked about, having to wash your hands, do you think they've been the same rules in every school that you've been into? Do schools taking different approaches?
No, there are different approaches in different schools. But you know, everybody's followed the protocol one way or another, but how it's communicated has been slightly different.
And that must be very hard for you then, going in and working in those different schools and sort of, I guess, not knowing if the kids are let out or if the kids are staying in that room, or, you know, exactly what's happening. It has been sometimes. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, I'm kind of getting an understanding then for these two different worlds, and my world as well, as we kind of discuss this kind of how the year has been. Krishna, I'm gonna throw a question to you about obviously how you started off. I know you mentioned you were a teaching assistant there. I also was a teaching assistant, weirdly enough, when I started my career as well. Do you think being a teaching assistant helped you as a teacher? Did that bring something to it?
Absolutely. It allowed me to watch as a third person in the classroom. So I was privy to every action that the teacher would do in the class, every decision, and I got to see why. And then we would always have conversations later about why that was done, or why this was asked to this specific student. So it really, really helped. It gave me a complete perspective without the pressure of the whole training. So that's probably one of the reasons why I spent 2 years as a TA, and then I felt like, yeah, this is something that I can definitely handle.
Okay, and I'm going to link that across, Vix, because then I guess being a supply teacher, do you think that being into all those different schools helps you to become a better teacher?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, improvisation is part of my training anyway, as a dramatist. So going in and adapting and being flexible and just picking up what's given and going with it is, I think, a skill that is underrated. Also, behaviour management, you have to get on top of your behaviour management really, really quickly. Find your different methods of dealing with different behaviours, different classes, very, very quickly. So my first term on supply was day to day. I started the back end of September. Between September and December, I learned an awful lot, and I feel that, you know, I'm constantly learning every day. Every day I go to some of the same schools now because they ask for me by name, but every day is different, and so I've got to adapt. I've got to go with the flow whilst following all the protocols, all the rules. It's tiring sometimes, but yes, I think in the long run, when I finally get that place to settle, it's all going to go in my favour.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of, you know, I always think about my time being on supply, and, you know, when I talk about stuff now, and sometimes schools are settled in a way of kind of, you know, we do that because we've only ever seen it this way, and we've only ever done it that way. And I guess by seeing it done in so many different ways, it kind of broadens your mind that actually it is possible in a different scenario, or it is possible to try it a different route. And
there's no one way to do anything.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I think that's one of the things we certainly see about teaching. You know, you could have a number of solutions that would work equally well to any sort of problem, and it's kind of picking the one for you. Sorry, Krishna, were you going to join in the conversation there? That's okay, Krishna. I just thought I saw your mic come on there for a second, but it's okay. Krishna, what I wanted to ask both of you, and I know this has gone a little bit wide because we're doing both of you at the same time. But luckily, I think there's a lot for us to talk about and compare from these different points of view. Obviously, Krishna in an international school as a newly qualified teacher, Vix moving between looking for that permanent home, and myself as a kind of, I guess, steady aspect in my current school, at least. I've been that kind of steady place being there. What has this year been like? If you were to sum it up, in as few words as possible, how would you describe this year in education? If we start with you, Krishna, how would you describe education this year as you found it?
Well, I would definitely say a learning experience, and it's been testing, but it's been great because I think I like to look at the silver lining, and one of the things that has come out here is how much we benefit from collaborating and learning from each other and sharing. And so, regardless of how tough it is, I think we found a new strength inside all of us that we will use and somehow make things work. So we thought that all of this would end a year ago. We thought we would all be back in school, but no, we spent another year in lockdown, especially here in Oman, where we are still under lockdown. I'm on a complete movement lockdown for the past 5 days. So we thought things were getting better, but they haven't. But we've done well with what we were given. So definitely a learning experience.
Wow. I mean, Krishna, can you tell us so you've been teaching remotely have you done any sort of, I guess, in-class teaching during your training?
Yes, I have. I got a couple of months in, but a lot of that has been online. And luckily for me, the DFE was willing to consider it. And we've done online lessons. We've been live online, but face-to-face has been quite limited.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just trying to get my head around that, because obviously we've had our periods of remote learning, and I think you're right. There are some things that, talking to the teachers in my school, they really benefited. They think their ability to explain got better because maybe the kids were going away to do it and they weren't going to get a chance to re-explain and re-explain. So a lot of their exposition stuff they got a lot better at. But I guess, how do you feel then about your preparedness for going into a classroom with, is it 30 children in a class, 20 children in a class? How do you feel about
24.
that?
We have about 24 students in a class. But the thing is, my training has not been limited to 1 year. I started before the pandemic hit. So I had a couple of months in where everything was normal. And then the pandemic hit, so we had to close off. And then we came back again for a bit. So it's been interesting. I got to really compare what teaching in classroom was like, and then I have had to adapt that to an online version.
And I guess you had that experience as a teaching assistant as well to kind of fall back on. That was in class kind of experience of doing it, yeah?
Yes. So that was really useful.
Okay, right. Vix, same question then. How would you describe this year for yourself, the pupils that you have, in a sentence? How would you describe it?
A challenging roller coaster.
Okay, yeah, I really like that. I think I think a lot of people would talk that way. I guess to set the context for anyone internationally listening, we would have been in school in September, right? I'm trying to remember that.
Yes.
We were in school in September. We got to the start of January, and it might have been like January 4th or something like that. We went back for 1 day, or at least I did. Went back for 1 day, and then we locked down again, right? So then we were all remote. And during that remote period, were you still working? Were you still going into schools? Did people get you in to teach remotely? How did that kind of work?
Well, I did the 4th of January as a TA in a primary school.
Okay.
And then the following day, found out that I was furloughed for the foreseeable.
Okay.
Because they weren't really using supply teachers to do remote lessons. They were in secondary. They relied solely on their own staff. So extra staff weren't weren't drafted in. So I effectively had nearly 2 months sat at home, not being able to go anywhere or do anything, like much of the population.
Yeah, wow. And I guess that must be hard. And I think some of these questions that I want to compare how you feel as a supply teacher, or as you are a teacher. I should stop saying supply teacher because you are a teacher.
I am a teacher.
But when the world of teachers, and we are all talking about things, and we're all kind of sat there going, oh, you know, this is happening, that is happening, this is terrible. Do you feel slightly disconnected from that sometimes?
Yes, there's no doubt about that. Because whenever schools have closed, I've effectively been without work. When they closed the schools initially in the March, I panicked because I thought, I'm not going to have any money for the next couple of months. How do I get through, pay my rent, etc.? So I went back to pharmacy. I'm a qualified dispenser. I went back and did that for a couple of months. And then the furlough came in and the pharmacy I was working with didn't require me any longer. And then day to day in September, it's always slow in September, until October, where I got a long-term SEN placement. Then, like I say, we had Christmas. I had one day after Christmas as a primary TA, and then it was, no work again. Like I say, luckily I was furloughed for both periods, but the being sat at home, not in schools, and only Twitter for information, for how schools are coping, it's quite difficult, really, when you've trained so hard and worked really hard in the profession that you've chosen.
Yeah, you know, it must be, I guess, disconnecting. Krishna, and this might be showing my ignorance of international teaching at all, but I want to ask it. I guess when your teaching network that you have, you follow British teachers, you follow international teachers, your information, I guess, in that sense. Do you get a global perspective in Oman, or is it an Oman kind of perspective in your network?
I'm teaching at a British school, so it's very much British. But on Twitter and social media, of course, I get to listen to and speak to a lot of people in the international teaching market. So that's more global. But school is very much a British school, and we follow the British national curriculum. Okay, and so I guess with that, and this will lead us on to our next kind of questions, I want to talk about the end of the school year. Okay, and so I said in the introduction, it's the end of my term today at my school. We finished today at lunchtime, and we had our kind of end of year assembly. We had awards, we had gifts, presentations for staff who were leaving. We actually live streamed it because we couldn't have parents in, or I guess we could have. The rules did allow for some, but we just didn't want to go there. So we've had that. What's an end of year like, or the traditions, I guess, the things for you at your schools where you teach, Krishna? Right. If we were in a normal setting, we would be having a huge song and dance festival in our lovely new theatre. But since this year we've been online, we've had to kind of move all of that celebration online too. So students were asked to make home-produced videos of them singing with their family, a dance program that they liked, that they performed themselves or choreographed. And then they've been sharing the videos. We've had to pick winners. So a lot of online celebration. I've got, normally we would have cards and flowers and chocolates, but this year we've had lots of online cards coming in, jam boards, those kinds of things to celebrate and to give out to students and teachers, because we've not had a chance to see them physically. So all of our celebration has gone online. And I guess that must be hard, particularly. Is it a primary, secondary model, your school? There will be children who are leaving who the school community won't necessarily see again? Exactly, and that's what makes it really, really hard. especially for the year sixes, because normally our transition used to be big. We used to have hoodies, and it used to be really, really in-school celebratory, and we really celebrate with everything that they've achieved in primary. But this year, it's had to be an online video of them passing a paper ball, showing some sort of transition and things like that. But there's very little we can do because we're just following government regulations.
Yeah, I guess so. No, I guess that's part of that adaptability that you were talking about earlier, of having to, adapt your practice to say, we want to do something to celebrate. How can we make that work? How can we, fit that in?
We've had to think on our feet.
Sorry, go on, Krishna, if you go on.
No, I was just saying that we've had to think on our feet, and we've had to look at every single thing being converted online. So it's been challenging, but it's shown us that we can. Yeah,
do you know what? I wonder when a lot of people are sort of there was worries about people training during this time. I think some of the skills that newly qualified teachers must have about their adaptability, their ability to look at what teaching is and translate that into something else. I think that there's probably quite a lot of strength there in the training that's happened as far as people really thinking about their practice.
Sure.
Right, Vicky, I'm going to ask you a question then, and this kind of comes in from a different perspective then. We've sort of heard about my end of year, we've heard about Krishna's end of year. End of year for you then as a teacher must be a bit weird, a bit different?
It depends. It depends what I'm doing. If I'm on a long-term placement, then I would be generally included in the end of term festivities, activities, and that has happened. You do find sometimes that on the end of term, the last day of term, there's no work. So I'm generally in the last couple of days before term ends. And then you find that the work that's been set tends to be proper work, and kids get upset because the classes are watching films or doing games, and I've been set something out of a textbook for them. Then, like I say, generally the last day of term, I'm not required.
Yeah,
on a long-term placement. I've never done the end of term at this time of year because I've always had a long-term assignment, apart from last year, obviously. So it's very strange. A couple of schools finished last week on Friday. Then there's a school that's finished yesterday, but I was in Monday, and I've been into a school today that finishes tomorrow. So the likelihood of me being there tomorrow is very slim.
Yeah, no, one of the things I have noticed this year, and I don't know if it's something to do with the calendar or something that's happened, but the spread of the end of year, I've seen people, saying that they finished sort of last week, some people saying that they've got 8 more days to go, some people are finishing this week, I'm finishing midweek. It does seem to have been really spread out this year.
It does. I've been asked to be on standby until next Thursday.
Oh, okay, wow. So some people are really going on with their terms.
Yes. Well, I'm told
been on holiday for 3 weeks now.
But wow.
So, do you know what, Krishna? I have, I know of, I have colleagues and people who teach in Dubai and some of the places like that, and they international schools, and they have a shorter summer term as well. I want to say shorter summer term. I think it's shifting the hours around, isn't it? The days around. But you've been finished for 3 weeks, have you?
Yes, 3 weeks exactly today, yeah.
When do you go back, Krishna?
The end of August.
Okay, how close to the end of August, if you don't mind me asking?
Around the 23rd. For staff, around the 23rd, and for students, first week September.
Oh, okay, right. So because obviously I'd be expecting a lot of our students to be coming back in September time as well. So it's just a kind of, I guess, a bit of a longer period over the summer.
It's slightly different this year because we've had to quarantine before we go. We've had to quarantine in the arriving country. We were expected to be back 1 week before the school reopens. In fact, 2 weeks before the school reopens, because once you enter the country, you're expected to go into 14 days of quarantine. So I guess a lot of students and teachers will be traveling in a little earlier. So it's going to be a really short holiday.
Yeah.
Because a lot of colleagues have had to fly through 5 different countries just to make it to the UK.
Wow, and I guess is that kind of sort of jumping from red to amber, then amber to green?
Exactly.
That kind of
Jumping through all the colours, yep.
Can I ask then, the teaching makeup of the schools where you've been working, or the school you've been working most recently, what sort of is the nationality makeup of the teachers in those schools?
Well, it depends on what school it is. If you're teaching in an Indian school, you will find that most teachers are Indian, but that's generally because of the curriculum, and they're generally the people who are trained to teach that. In the British school, it's an international school, so we do hire everyone, but you've got to be British trained. So it's more about where you're trained and less about nationality.
Okay, so you might get teachers sort of applying that, you know, they want to work abroad, they want to see the world, they're trained in Britain, they might go and work somewhere like that for a couple of years, or they might find they love it and stay longer, that kind of thing.
Absolutely, yes, that kind of thing.
Okay, so you said you were, like I'm just picking up on these little things here, you said you were, you're British trained. Yeah,
yes.
You got it through the DFE. I remember you saying. So you can come and teach here.
No, because to teach in the UK, I would need a work permit. Because I'm not British, I wouldn't be able to teach that.
But I just mean, I guess, ignoring the work permit bit, you are the same kind of teacher I am, qualified wise. You have QTS, a British QTS kind of.
Absolutely, yes.
Certificate.
If it went for the government, I would definitely consider teaching in the UK.
It has its benefits. I will say it has its benefits, even though I have to say I am leaving England to teach, and I'm moving to Wales, which has a different education department. So the Welsh government are in charge of education in Wales. So I am transitioning from the English system myself to a Welsh system. And it is slightly different, less so at secondary, because it's exam boards and they tend to be national. Yeah, you know, there are their own distinct kind of parts to the different parts of the UK within the teaching. But weirdly, I trained in Wales, but I have that British teaching qualification as well, if that makes sense. Even though I did have to speak Welsh to do it. Unfortunately, which sounds terrible in my accent, Welsh does, as you'll have heard. Vix, I just want to kind of touch on that end of year thing. We've talked a bit about Krishna saying that, you know, they've had these e-cards, these presents. I've had the odd thing dropped off. I'm a deputy head now without a class, so I don't get as many things dropped off to me. I have the odd card here and there, but as a class teacher, it must be hard, Vicky, as a teacher, but seeing people celebrating. Sometimes I guess we get to this point a year and it's everyone, I've got my class and my class have got me this. Does that kind of grate slightly, I guess?
No, surprisingly it doesn't. I have had that experience. As I say, I've had long-term assignments where I've got to the end of term and my students have brought me cards or candles or, you know, little things to say thank you. But just the fact that when I go back to a school, students say, "Oh, miss, I haven't seen you for ages. You okay?" Do you know what I mean? That does it for me.
Yeah, I guess, and also I know you've been, you know, I've seen some of your tweets, I do follow you on Twitter, but sort of saying that kind of when you get asked back, you're kind of almost getting that kind of kick of being, you know, getting a job, but you get it almost more regularly than I do. I do that once every 5 years, but you're kind of, you know, how does that feel when you kind of, you said they ask you by name?
It's amazing because that proves that I'm getting something right. Because I don't have much validation as a supply teacher. Generally, you are you're brought into the school, you're given a quick tour, you're given your information, it's got your safeguarding stuff, it's got your lesson materials, it's got any numbers, any emails, any information that you require for the day, and then you're basically left to it. So when the school contacts the agency and says, "Can we have Vicky?" To me, that's amazing. It means somebody's noticed that I've done a good job. And I'm very lucky in the fact that there are quite a few schools that do that now. And it is purely because I've been on the circuit for 5 years.
Yeah, I think so. I try and think back to my time doing it, and yeah, that kind of buzz of being asked back. I think there is something to that. That, like you say, I guess the validation. I mean, I guess it's nerve-wracking, I guess, or kind of worrying in a sense that you're getting that validation. Kind of, yep, we want her back. Yep, we want her back. Actually, we'd like, we've got this job for her. Now, I've always, talked about, as a supply teacher myself when I started, that you can judge a school by how the staff and the students treat a supply teacher going in. Do you find that yourself?
I agree completely. Absolutely. You can tell by, as soon as you walk through the door sometimes, what kind of day you're going to have. Because I'm lucky in that there's several schools that I go to that are very welcoming and very informative, and they do value what I contribute to their day. But equally, I have been to schools whereby you walk in and the receptionist turns her nose up at you, and it's like, oh, okay then.
It's about setting that culture, isn't it?
Yes, it can be. But I'm the type of person, I've had enough knocks in my life that I know what I'm capable of and who I am. So I plough on regardless. And if they don't have me back, then that's their lookout, not mine.
And yeah, certainly. And Krishna, as a trainee teacher, as you were, how did you find sort of you were treated by students and staff, I guess, would be my question. So a similar question sort of from a trainee teacher's point of view.
I would agree with what Vic said. Even though the school that I work in is really, really clear, and they really, really do try to set that culture, the tone and the respect, you just know from the students. It was slightly harder for me because I started off as a TA in the same school. So the level of respect changes. So when they've known me as a teaching assistant, and now I am a trainee teacher, my position has changed, but then the level of respect hasn't. So I really struggled with getting that acceptance from students. So I had to really work on that. And I think partly I am to blame because I have to first believe that I'm no longer a teaching assistant, and I need to put my foot down and just demand the same respect and the same attention that any other regular teacher would demand. So once I think I sorted myself out, it became a lot easier. But definitely I agree with what Vic said. Very similar experiences there. Going from a teaching assistant to a trainee. I remember after I qualified and my class teacher celebrated it with the class, one of the students went home and told their parents that my teacher is no longer a fake teacher. She's a real teacher. And the parent was nice enough to come back and give me that feedback. And even though it was done in a very innocent way, that kind of shows how students picture you in their heads.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
You've really hit on something there, Krishna, about when I talk about stuff, I think I tend not to introduce people as a trainee teacher. And again, Vix, I find the word supply teacher, I don't know, there's something that comes off, are those words undermining respect in a way? If I start
Absolutely.
Vix.
Absolutely.
I agree.
The schools I go to whereby the day's better, the work's better, the whole experience is better, are the ones who see me as an extra member of staff. And they refer to me as, this is Miss is with us today. This is what you're doing. There's no mention of the fact that I don't work for the school, which helps. I mean, I've had students query my qualifications.
Wow.
So you can't be a proper teacher. You can't be because you wouldn't be here doing this if you were a proper teacher. And it's like, well, actually, yes, I do have the same postgraduate qualification as every other teaching member of staff in this building. I just haven't found somewhere to teach my subject on a regular basis. And that's that. I know some people have a very dim view of supply teachers. There are some out there that don't do the job terribly well. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose it depends who they've had previously, and what sort of experience they've had with supply staff, as to how they see me.
Yeah.
I go in and do my best every day. So
yeah, I guess, you know, maybe they, yeah, I guess if they haven't had that sort of experience of quality supply teachers, of quality teaching sort of on a kind of basis like that, that must be hard. And I guess also potentially if they've had student teachers, or you know, I can't, God, the fake teacher comment, Krishna, I'm just kind of biting my lip at, kind of, wow, that's an amazing one. But you know, there is a culture there maybe that we've missed. Now, I would like to think, you know, we're going to try and end on, and we will have to end our conversation shortly. But I want to end this on a kind of positive note. So looking forward, you know, possibly, I guess, with Krishna talking about the benefits of training during this lockdown period, as you've already talked about, but also thinking about a positive prediction for the next year as we go into it. And then I'll ask Vicky for another positive prediction about, you know, where we could be if we were to have this conversation again at the end of next year. What kind of things would we be talking about? So Krishna, what's your positive prediction for next year in education for you?
For me personally, I'm hoping that by the end of next year, I would have spent 1 year as an NQT in the lovely school that I'm working in. I'm also hoping that it would not be online, and we are able to throw our school gates open to students and parents again. And everything's fine, and the pandemic's over, and we don't have to be wearing masks, and it's rosy in the lovely world again.
Yeah, I guess the classroom that you were hoping to get into as a teacher, hoping that exists again. But yeah, that's a lovely image. I love that. A successful NQT year, and you know, on your way to being that confident and practitioner that you want to be. Vix, what's your positive prediction, I guess, for next year?
well, I'm hoping that there's more drama jobs available, and that somebody decides to keep me.
Certainly so. You know, I think that sounds like, and I guess that's where we label ourselves maybe as teachers, as that permanent position where you can really get your teeth in. As you say, you talked about you know, an impact on a department, and being able to implement some of these things you've seen across different schools, I guess would be a lovely thing to get your teeth into, right, in the next year.
Absolutely, that's the aim. I applied for a job the other day, actually.
Oh, well, fingers crossed, everyone listening
Good luck
there.
with that,
Yeah, fingers crossed, everyone, for Vicky, so that she, you know, because you know, a permanent home, I guess, is something we all look for, somewhere we feel valued and supported, particularly through these troubled waters. Listen, guys, it's been so great to chat with you about your different experiences this year, and your different sort of takes on the end of year, and the different views we can have on education. Because, as we say, I think I'm going to start saying that now, we are all teachers. No matter where we teach or what we teach or how we are contracted. So
Yes.
Thank you, Krishna. If you want to say goodbye, and then I will cut you off.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Vix. Hope you have everything that you dreamed of. Take care.
Oh, thanks, Krishna, and you.
And Vix, if you wanted to say your last words before we say goodbye to you.
I just want to say thank you for having me, and it's nice to be able to give a supply perspective, because in some schools they don't want to know.
No, as I say, it's been really nice to talk to you, and really invaluable and pertinent points. And yeah, I think no matter how you're contracted, you are a teacher, and I will keep my fingers crossed for you that you find that permanent home you've been looking for. Okay,
thank you very much.
Speak to ta-ra. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye now. Bye.
Bye now. Bye. Right, guys, we are, after that amazing conversation with our two guests, we are going to head to the news and then we're going to head to an advert break. Oh, Krishna is coming back 1 second. I believe she's just calling back in. Krishna, I've just rejoined you there. Possibly one more last word. Krishna?
Sorry, I think
Hi,
my
Krishna.
phone is playing itself. Sorry.
Hi, Krishna. You popped back on. Was there? Are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay. Sorry, I think my phone's just done that itself. Sorry.
Okay. Listen, it was lovely to talk to you. Have a good evening, and good luck with everything next year in your NQT year. Okay. Right. So, everyone, we are going to head to the news, and then we are going to head onto a ad break. Remember, text in if you'd like to talk, call in if you can, and of course join the conversation on our Twitter and our Facebook, or at ttradio.org, where you can listen back to all of our shows. Now, off to the news we go, and I will see you all on the other side.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
This is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News with Gail Glenn. Figures released recently by the Department for Education have shown that pupils in the borough of Oldham have absence rates amongst the highest in England. Oldham Council's Managing Director of Children and Young People, Gerard Jones, is quoted as saying in an interview with the Oldham Times that the longer-term impact of COVID-19 is persistent absence and elective home education. There's a group of children that we might really struggle to ever get back into education. The Council is focusing on young people's mental health for the next academic year. Mr. Jones stated that what really helps children learn is to be happy, healthy and safe. It's not just the learning resources that we need, it's the support around children's mental health that enables them to learn. £12 million is being invested to maintain and improve Staffordshire schools. New roofs and windows will be installed, and heating systems, pipework and electrical networks will be upgraded. Jonathan Price, Staffordshire County Council's Cabinet Member for Education, said, "The quality of school buildings can help or hinder pupils' learning, and we are committed to having our children taught in the best possible environment across the county." Willow Den, a subsidiary of Inspiring Scotland, is to launch a chain of outdoor nurseries in Edinburgh. The first site will have capacity for up to 24 children per day for children aged between 3 and 5. They eventually plan to operate across Scotland, including deprived communities. Chief Executive Deborah Grant said, "With funded childcare hours doubling from August and COVID-19 continuing to impact children's health and well-being, there is growing demand for increased access to outdoor nurseries across Scotland." This has been your daily education news briefing.
Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TT Radio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club.
And Croeso I Abertawe, welcome to Swansea, welcome to the Twilight Show with me, Nathan Gynn, on a Wednesday night on Teachers Talk Radio. And if you've missed our show so far, you have missed out on us talking to Krishna in Oman, who is giving us a perspective of what this year has been like, not just as an international teacher, but as a trainee teacher as well. And she was telling us about how she spent not so much time in the class, although her training for herself was longer and she'd been a teaching assistant before, but they've done a lot of remote learning where she's been. And we also spoke to Vicky, who is a drama teacher looking for a permanent home. So she's been in and out of schools during this year, and gave us a perspective of what that's like, being a supply teacher during a pandemic. And also, I guess, what it's like being a supply teacher at the end of term as well, when people are talking about it. Now, what that leads us on to, of course, is me talking about my end of term and what it's been like for me this week and today in particular. But if you've missed the start of the show, you can listen back to all of our shows and all of our hosts at ttradio.org or on the Podbean app. And of course, I this week was listening back to an episode from the start of this month. I think it was Seb Ventura's show on the 8th. And I was listening back to an episode that he had where he had some guests talking about how to improve reading at a secondary level. And he had 3 different English leads or literacy leads who were talking about their approaches. And I listened to some of it when it was on live. I listened back to the rest of it this weekend as I was catching up with some of those shows. And I have saved it to listen to again because I want it to be fresh in my memory when I get back to school in September, because there are definitely some of those ideas that I want to steal. And that is certainly something that I love about Teachers Talk Radio at the moment. It's that ability to find and save and listen back to any of the shows. Not only can you call in and text in live, but it is there that you can find a show that you maybe missed for whatever reason, and you can join the conversation again at your own pace. Now, today for me, and now I did put out a kind of semi-jokingly tweet saying that I would be there would be cracks in my voice this evening because I have left my my current school. I will have to change my Twitter handle from deputy lesson copy, because I will no longer be a deputy head at a primary school. I am moving to be a teacher in an alternative provision. So at a secondary level. So I guess if you're listening in the studio there and you want to text in, if you have any suggestions for what I can rename my my Twitter account, but it will no longer be deputy lesson copy. It will have to be something else, maybe alternative lesson copy, maybe secondary lesson copy. I don't know. Maybe I should just go with my own name for once. But yeah, so I have finished this week. And so to kind of describe that experience of what we've had, obviously we've had a week like many primary schools where we have not been having parents in. Although the guidance has changed, we've made the decision to stick with all our risk assessments for the last 3 days of term and just see it out safely to hopefully protect everyone's health. And also, people have plans that isolating will certainly put a stop to if the worst was to come to the worst. And I do believe that, I think I saw on the news that there's maybe 1 million pupils isolating at the moment in the UK. But yeah, so we've had presents being dropped off. We've had bottles arriving in the office, which is certainly something that I think primary schools and secondary schools will start to see at this time of year. Sort of bottles and chocolate that I've had to be very careful hasn't melted. So that's been had to store away and not trickle down my desk in the heat. So we've had that. And then today, in I guess a more typically normality primary school setting, we had our first assembly, and it has been our first assembly. Do you know what? I cannot remember when the last assembly we had was at my current school, and maybe 18 months ago. And it has been, we did it outside so that we could be spaced out enough and spread ourselves out. We are still using bubbles at my school, so the children were in their classes, but then those classes were spread out as well. Oh, we've got Megan G there saying, what prompted the move? Megan, the move has been on the cards. I, as I've said, I trained in Wales, I trained in Swansea, hence the use of the Welsh language. And in Wales, you have what they call incidental Welsh in a primary school. So you have Welsh medium schools where you teach entirely in Welsh. But then you also have through the whole of Wales to promote the Welsh language, a bit like if you drive there, you'll see the signs are in English and Welsh. That happens too if you're queuing up in the post office, they'll do the announcement in English and in Welsh. In the classroom, you do the register in Welsh, you do all your classroom commands in Welsh, to the point where when I moved to England as a NQT after training, if someone would knock on my classroom door, it had been so ingrained in me that I'd say, Delcama, come here, Delcimam, come in. So I would instantly respond with the Welsh for something, or, you know, Bregdanau and Cinio for packed lunch and school dinner, you know, all of those things. Even my son, who now goes to school in Wales, says he came home the other day and said his friend said, oh, Rebecca was dear mama. And that's the response when you do the register. You either say which is I'm here, like here, or dear mama, which means not here. And so he was using it there incidentally. So yeah, I trained there, but the job market for teaching in Swansea is hard. You know, I remember there being rumours, of course you never know for sure, of, you know, over 100 applications for every teaching job. And there was, hence I did a lot of supply work there. I did my first 2 years on supply, moving around, and I found that really useful. A bit like Vix was saying in the interview, she was saying that you can pick up things from where you go around. And so I had this experience of teaching, but I needed to do my NQT year to kind of be that fully qualified teacher. So I moved to England, where I'm from, and got a job in England and started teaching. COVID came, and a bit like a lot of people, we had to make our decisions. And I've made a really silly decision, you know, when my children had come along, that we thought it was fairer to live in the middle of between the two sets of grandparents. So that made real sense to me at the time that, oh yeah, there'd be a set of grandparents 2 hours away in one direction and a set of grandparents 2 hours away in the other direction. And that seemed really like, yeah, that's a really sensible thing to do. And then I needed someone to pick them up from swimming, and there wasn't anyone. And then I needed someone to look after them for a night, and there wasn't anyone. And so, yeah, to get that, you know, I don't want to say it because it'll upset Mamgi, sorry, grandmother, grandma, see, dropping in the Welsh. It'll upset Mamgi that I call her free childcare, but yeah, sorry, unfortunately, Megan, it really is to do with the free childcare. But also, if you have seen Swansea, you know, there are some parts. East Swansea is quite industrial still, or ex-industrial, and that's where I'll be teaching. So it certainly has its deprivation parts in the old copper quarter, but West Swansea and the Gower, they call it, is areas of outstanding natural beauty. It is, you know, when you see beaches, you see them sort of that typical Cornish kind of beach coastline. It's like that out in the Gower, sandy stretches of beaches. And I will get to go running, and I will buy myself one of those stand-up paddle boards, and I will, yeah, everyone seems to have one on the beach at the moment, a stand-up paddle board, and I'll be like floating out like some kind of Hawaiian kind of a person. And Krishna's there. She's saying her sister studied at Swansea Uni and it is beautiful. Yeah, as I say, Krishna, it is really stunning there. And it has a really interesting, I guess, part to Swansea Bay. Swansea Bay people didn't used to swim in it. You know, it was industrial, and it's this lovely bay that goes all the way around. You can see Port Talbot Steelworks, which is a little bit kind of like looking at Blade Runner, kind of smokestack towers and lights and flames. Your location, Megan is saying there. Yeah, so Port Talbot, but they... Oh, my sister's in the studio. Hello, Sophie. SG19, that's my sister. I see, Sophie, that you've deliberately not used something that I would recognise as your username this time, so that I can't call you out. Are you going to call in today, Sophie? And it will send me a phone call after the show, or are you still at SLT? Normally this happens, is my... so I can sneak in and listen. Yeah, thanks, Sophie. So Sophie will be coming down to visit next weekend, I believe, or this weekend. I lose track. My sister's coming down because, yeah, beaches and beautiful, and of course the boys, of course. She wants to see her nephews. But yeah, beautiful beaches. Now, where was I? Sophie, call in. You can explain. She is a geography teacher. You can call in and explain exactly the geographical features of Swansea Bay. But as I was saying, it used to be quite muddy, I believe, and quite silty, and it used to kind of have kind of industrial kind of coal washing up on the beach. And it turns out the reason for that is that they were dredging the sand and they were selling it to Blackpool. Yeah, so all that sand on that beach in Blackpool, that was dredged up from Swansea, and they were selling it. And so then Swansea Bay didn't have any sand and was horrible, and no one wanted to go on it. But they stopped that. And the industry died down, which actually is a bad thing, but it has meant that kind of Swansea Bay has reclaimed its kind of natural beauty and is now a kind of beautiful place. I have signed up for the Swansea 10K so that I can run along that kind of long stretch. I'll see if I've got a photo of it. It is like this long stretch where you run from Mumbles all the way down to the marina and back again. Oh, I cannot explain how beautiful it is. Go have a look on my Twitter feed. If it's a beach, it's a beach in Swansea, because there are no beaches in Basingstoke, where I currently am. So yeah, I am off to Swansea, and I got distracted in my kind of praise for Swansea there, as I was saying that, yeah, I have left my school, walked out for the last time, walked out the gate, tears in my eyes, kind of welling up, because I've been at that school 5 years. I started at that school. I was phoned up and they said, we've got a job, we'd like you to take it. We can't tell you what school it's at. You need to agree to be deputy head there before we tell you what school it's at. And that, just, for point of reference, is never a good sign. If they're not willing to tell you what the school is before you accept the job, it's going to be a challenge to take on. And it certainly was, and so I that's what I wanted to do. And the head teacher there was new as well. The new head teacher and I started at the same time, and within 2 years the school was good, which is not what it should be about. Because actually, the thing that made me proudest of that was we kept the staff, and we did it the right way, and we did it through trusting the staff and building their trust in themselves, and empowering them to make decisions. And so I have this kind of great passion and love, and it is not leaving for a bad reason, which I think in some ways might be easier if I was kind of, it was a kind of a bad breakup and I wanted to get away. I still feel really passionately about the school. I still want it to go from strength to strength, and the people there to do well. But yeah, it has been a hard day. And so what is going to happen is I am going to obviously finish off the show, and I will maybe open one of those bottles that I said turned up in my office, and I will put on some sad music, and wistfully look at the warm evening sunshine and think about it. So send me your hugs, send me your good wishes if you can, and we will get through this together, I guess. So it is time for me to wrap up. And I will say again, thank you to our guests, Krishna and Vicky, who gave us their perspectives on what's been a really interesting year, but even made it more interesting by the fact that we've been able to hear it from different perspectives, and remembering that we are all teachers and we are all in this together. So I'm going to play our fading out music, and I will see you on the other side just to say goodbye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.
And thank you, Krishna, saying good luck with your new role. And thank you, Vic, saying good luck with the new job. SG19, Sophie, my sister, you could have called in. I'm going to leave the show now, and I'll give you a call, find out how your SLT went, and find out what we're doing at the beach this weekend. Nostar, everyone, and good night.